Welcome to a brand new episode of Law and Batting Order. I'm your host, Tony Iliakostas. Here are some quick hits from the past 2 weeks. A few months ago, you may recall when Yankees third baseman Alex Rodriguez made it very clear that he would appeal his 211-game suspension for his involvement in the biogenesis scandal. Well, the end of the regular season has come, and A-Rod and his legal team have begun their appeal of his suspension. If you may recall, Major League Baseball suspended A-Rod on the grounds that he not only received performance-enhancing drugs from the Miami-based health clinic Biogenesis, but Major League Baseball alleged that he interfered with MLB's investigation. So while A-Rod is appealing his suspension, he and his legal team went ahead and filed a complaint against Major League Baseball and Commissioner Bud Selig. The complaint alleges that Major League Baseball interfered with A-Rod's prospective and future business relationships. The complaint also accuses Major League Baseball of attempting to sabotage A-Rod's career while inserting some pretty hyperbolic language in the complaint. This situation will certainly get interesting as A-Rod fights to modify his punishment. Sticking to baseball, the road to October continues as the League Championship Series has commenced. In the National League, October sadly comes to an end as the Cardinals defeated the Pittsburgh Pirates in Game 5 of their series, while the Braves were shut down by the potent Los Angeles Dodgers in 4 games. In the American League, Justin Verlander single-handedly owned the Oakland Athletics in Game 5, sending the Detroit Tigers to the ALCS. Finally, the Red Sox won their series against the Tampa Bay Rays 3-1. At the time of this episode, the Red Sox and Tigers will begin their series on Saturday night, while the Cardinals already have a 1-0 series lead against the Dodgers, thanks to postseason hero Carlos Beltran. So who has been the most clutch player this postseason? Hands down, Carlos Beltran. He not only hit 2 monster shots during the division series against the Pirates, but it was thanks to his 3 RBIs in Game 1 of the League Championship Series that gave the Cards a victory. So on a scale of 1 bobblehead of me to 5, Carlos Beltran's performance is a solid 5 bobbleheads, as he continues to make his mark as one of the best postseason players in baseball history. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are suffering these days as the franchise is not meeting expectations going into the season. The team seemed to be promising as the Bucs acquired cornerback superstar Darrelle Revis and safety Deshaun Goldson to solidify their defense. There was also a belief that the Buccaneers offense would do a stellar job with quarterback Josh Freeman maturing into a potent player. But that didn't appear to be the case. The Buccaneers have not only underperformed this season, but Josh Freeman has been far from good for Tampa Bay, so much so that the team released Freeman after making several attempts to trade him. Ultimately, the Minnesota Vikings signed Freeman and is expected to become their starting quarterback beginning Week 7. So for Tampa Bay, they turn a new chapter in their hunt for their quarterback, while Josh Freeman attempts to succeed in his new team. Today's Order in the Court is perhaps one of the most depressing topics I'll ever discuss in this show's history. On Friday, news broke that the 2-year-old son of Minnesota Vikings running back Adrian Peterson died after the child was a victim of child abuse. The child, who was living in South Dakota with his mother, was beaten and choked by the child's mother's boyfriend, 27-year-old Robert Patterson. According to the Sioux Falls Police Department, Patterson called 911 claiming that the child choked. The child was unresponsive when he was rushed to a nearby hospital. However, as police continued to investigate, they found that the child's injuries were consistent with abuse. Unfortunately, the child's injuries were so severe that the child died. Robert Patterson, who has a rap sheet of domestic abuse, was arrested and charged with aggravated battery of an infant and aggravated assault. If he is found guilty, Patterson could face up to 40 years in prison and be given a fine of $80,000. However, prosecutors are not eliminating the possibility of adding more charges against Patterson for this abhorrent act. Child abuse, or any abuse for that matter, is behavior that should never be condoned. And in today's episode, I'll discuss the elements of aggravated assault and battery. I'll also discuss what additional charges may be looming for Robert Patterson. South Dakota's codified law, section 22-18-1.1, lists the elements by which someone can be charged with aggravated assault. In relevant part, any person who attempts to cause serious bodily injury to another or causes such injury under circumstances manifesting extreme indifference to the value of human life is guilty of aggravated assault. This statute applies because reports indicate that the child's injuries were consistent injuries that one sustains during abuse. We don't know the exact injuries that were sustained, but we do know that the injuries were severe enough to cause the poor child's death. As far as aggravated battery, a South Dakota case called State v. Mueller dealt with a situation in which the defendant kidnapped, raped, and subsequently stabbed and killed a 9-year-old girl. In Mueller, the court created 2 conditions in which aggravated battery is satisfied under the following conditions: the infliction of serious physical abuse upon the victim by depriving the victim of a member of his or her body, by rendering a member of the victim's body useless, or by seriously disfiguring his or her body or a part of his or her body, and the defendant had the specific intention, design, or purpose of maliciously inflicting unnecessary pain to the victim, which implies suffering in excess of what was required to accomplish the murder. Here, it can be easily argued that Robert Patterson seriously inflicted physical abuse on Adrian Peterson's son. We know that the child was unresponsive and had to go on life support, and that alone is enough to suggest seriously bodily harm. Secondly, we don't know what his intention or purpose was in carrying out this act. At least those facts haven't come out yet. But if Patterson's plan was to harm the child seriously, then he meets this requirement as well. Aside from these charges, it wouldn't be surprising if Patterson's charges were upgraded to manslaughter or even second-degree murder. But the case is in very premature phases, so we won't know full answers until we understand what Patterson's motive was at the time he assaulted and abused Adrian Peterson's son. This situation brings to light the very harsh reality of child abuse. It is one of the most evil acts a human being can ever commit, and it's unfortunately alive and well. But while child abuse still occurs, that doesn't stop you or me from standing up and putting an end to child abuse and other forms of family or domestic violence. I do hope that you will join me in sympathizing with Adrian Peterson over the loss of his son, while also standing up and putting an end to all forms of abuse once and for all. Before I wrap up today's episode, I want to let all of you know that this week I had a chance to interview with bobbleheads.com about my bobblehead collection. These were the same fine folks who designed the custom bobblehead of my dad and me. If you'd like to see the interview, which goes into great detail about my love for bobbleheads, be sure to click the annotation on the right side of the screen, or you can click the link below this video. Many thanks as always to Rick Schwartz and the entire bobbleheads.com team for the opportunity to interview me and for always supporting Law and Batting Order. Anyway, that's the show. Leave all your comments down below and be sure to visit Law and Batting Order at lawandbattingorder.com as well as on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Take care, guys.